Vânia Basílio Rocha was born in 1997 in the state of Rondônia, Brazil. I couldn't find details about her childhood, but according to her mother, Vânia always seemed like a normal person, and for those who knew the young woman closely, they never imagined that she would be capable of doing what she did. One of the few pieces of information I found about the young woman is that she lived in the city of Vilhena in Rondônia and worked as a saleswoman and nanny a few months before committing the crime. At age 18, she met 26-year-old Marcos Catanio Porto, known as Tim. Marcos worked as an editor, but at the time he was unemployed and receiving unemployment benefits. He also had a young daughter from a previous relationship. Vânia and Marcos dated for almost 10 months. Despite the two declaring themselves to each other on social media, where they say they loved each other, close people say the relationship was troubled and fights and discussions were frequent. With that, they separated and each went on with their lives. At the same time, Vânia even posted on her social media saying that she was not a bad girlfriend. On December 30, 2015, about 2 months after the separation, Vânia called Marcos in the morning and said that she wanted to say goodbye to him, claiming that she was going to leave for another state. The boy agreed to meet her and called her to go to his place, where he lived alone in a house that shared the land with his brother's house, which was in the back. Vânia went to Marcos' house, and there the two went to the bedroom, where they began to undress and lay down on the bed. But before that, she turned on the stereo and turned up the volume so no one could hear what was going on in the room. While they maintained intimate relations, Vânia covered Marcos' eyes with one hand and with the other pulled out a kitchen knife that she had put in her bag when she got ready to meet him. The young woman struck several knife blows at the boy, who started screaming and tried to defend himself by going up to Vânia. Marcos' brother, Alberto Porto, and his friend Mauricio, who were in the back house, heard the boy's screams and ran to see what was going on. They had to break the bedroom window to enter the place since the door was locked. Their desperation was so great that Alberto, Marcos' brother, ended up cutting his arm on the window pane. After breaking into the window, they saw Marcos holding Vânia's arm with the knife. Mauricio quickly ran towards the young woman and took the knife from her hand. At that moment, Marcos started to stagger because of his injuries, and the two boys held him so he wouldn't fall to the ground. Marcos died in the arms of his friend and brother. His last words were, "She's crazy." As soon as she was disarmed, Vânia ran and hid in one of the residents' bathrooms, where she stayed until the arrival of the military police. With the arrival of the police, Vânia was arrested red-handed for aggravated homicide. At the police station during her statement, and also in interviews with journalists, the young woman stated that she was not sorry and that she simply wanted to kill someone. She also said that she had a list with the names of 3 boys, but that in the end, Marcos was chosen due to the circumstances.
Você só estava com vontade de matar alguém?
É.
Acordou, com vontade de falar, hoje vou matar alguém e saiu pra rua?
Não, é de ontem à noite.
Ontem à noite? Mas por quê? Qual o motivo de tudo isso?
Você é usuário de droga?
Não, não tem droga. Não tem passagem pra polícia também.
Não, a faca você levou?
Eu levei.
Você não reagiu? Não foi pra cima de você, não?
Sim, reagiu quando eu tive um golpe nele aqui.
O primeiro golpe foi no pescoço?
Foi.
Você segurou ele com a perna?
Sim.
Sério que tu estava abraçada com o corpo quando chegaram, é verdade?
Não, ele segurou minha mão.
Você correu pro banheiro para tentar se proteger?
Sim.
Você espera sair da cadeia e executar os outros?
Não.
Parou nesse?
Parei.
Já
Você se arrepende ou não?
Não.
Não se arrepende?
Later, during investigations, the police discovered that in addition to Marcos, there was a friend and a date of Vânia on that list, and that she tried to arrange a meeting with them with the intention of taking their lives. However, she couldn't since the friend was at her brother's house in another city, and the date was with his family and couldn't meet her, leaving Marcos, who ended up being her victim. Marcos suffered 11 punctures in various parts of the body, and the cause of death was due to bleeding due to the injuries. He was buried on December 31st, 2015 in the city of Vilhena. Relatives and friends were outraged by the crime. According to Alberto Porto, the victim's brother, He and Marcos intended to return to the city of Pimenta Bueno, also in Rondonia, where the rest of the family lives. He also said he didn't believe in what happened and that Vanya would have to answer to God. Mauricio, a friend of the victim who even tried to save him, said he had lost a brother. Family members were also outraged by a photo taken of Marcos at the crime scene. This photo was shared on social media and even had news sites that published it. The family asked for respect and that they stop sharing the image. They even said that they wanted to remember Marcos alive and happy. During the time she was in police custody, Vanya underwent a psychiatric examination which found that she was a sociopath. She also gave several versions of the crime. In one of them, she said that she had no intention of killing Marcos, but when she entered his room, she felt like it and did what she did. In another, she says that they argued and that Marcos attacked her, so she, to defend herself, pulled a knife and attacked him. However, none of these versions matched the course of the story, since when Vanya herself was arrested, she stated that she really wanted to kill someone and that she even had a list with the names of her possible victims. The young woman's mother, very shaken by what happened, said that her daughter should pay for what she did and that the family wouldn't hire a lawyer for her, but wouldn't abandon her daughter, since despite what she did, she still loved her unconditionally. She also said that Vanya always appeared to be a normal person and that she had a good relationship with her family, even going to church. In January 2016, Vanya had an outbreak in prison, which left the other prisoners very afraid. According to information, the young woman started talking to herself with disconnected words and demonstrated violent behavior, even tearing her own sheet. Despite already being in a cell alone, she had to be transferred to another cell where she remained until she underwent a medical evaluation. After undergoing this evaluation, Vanya was transferred to a cell with 4 other prisoners. About this, Flavio Miranda, director of the prison, said at the time that it was likely that the isolation had ended the young woman's psychological state, but that later he saw her sunbathing along with the other inmates and seemed calmer. On July 12, 2016, Vanya was submitted to the first investigation hearing, which was also attended by witnesses linked to the case. Outside, there was a demonstration with about 30 friends and relatives of the victim asking that Vanya be taken to the popular jury. The hearing was precisely to define whether Vanya would be judged as a sociopath or if she would be taken to the popular jury. During the hearing, the young woman said that the facts were blurred in her head, that she remembered little about the crime, and that she believed that Marcos was still alive. On July 27, 2016, the Court of Justice determined that Vanya Basile Rocha would be submitted to a popular jury in the city of Vilhena. Marcos' friends and family were happy with the news. For them, it was a victory on the road to justice. On September 15, 2016, almost 9 months after the crime, the trial of Vanya Basile Rocha began. It is said that the young woman arrived at the scene looking downcast. She was heard only by the public prosecutor's office of Rondonia and by the defense itself, as justice had dismissed all the witnesses in the case. Her defense was handled by the state public defender, as her family refused to hire a lawyer, as I mentioned. When questioned by the prosecution about what had happened on the day of the crime, Vanya said that the facts were jumbled up in her head, and she even cried. Later, she told the prosecutor that she took the knife in her purse to Marcos' house as a security measure. Once there, she talked to his brother and then went to the victim's room. In the bedroom, she saw another woman's panties, which made her jealous and making her decide to kill the boy. This information about another woman's panties in the victim's room was new to the case, and I couldn't find any information on whether this was true or not. Many believe that this allegation was nothing more than a defense strategy, since Vanya hadn't mentioned anything about it to the authorities before the trial. Vanya also said that she suspected that her ex-boyfriend had cheated on her, and that she had already caught him with another woman. During the trial, some revelations about Vanya's past emerged. It was said that in her teens, she committed some thefts, used drugs, and even ran away from her mother's house several times. It was also said that during her relationship with Marcos, there was a fight in which she ended up breaking her cell phone, as Vanya was sharing intimate photos with her friends. Vanya, when she saw that Marcos had broken her cell phone, got very angry and started to break the whole room in the house. The public defender Jorge Barreto Filho, who defended the accused, confirmed that the relationship between Vanya and Marcos was violent, but said that they continued to see each other even after they separated. Still during the trial, Vanya said that she does not regret the crime itself, but she didn't imagine that her case would gain so much repercussion. For her, the coverage by the media disturbed her personal plans. The psychiatric reports presented during the trial pointed out that Vanya had a violent profile, but that this is no commonplace for all people diagnosed with sociopathy. The report also pointed out that Vanya cannot obey orders, does not have the capacity to demonstrate guilt or to learn from experiences. It was also proven that she is manipulative and tries to create stories to pass on to other people as responsibility for the fact. In this case, she does not assume her mistake, much less that she is wrong. After a few hours of deliberation, the jury court sentenced the accused Vanya Basílio Rocha to 13 years of prison for aggravated homicide. Upon hearing the sentence handed down by Judge Liliane Pegoraro Bilharva, Vanya looked furious and didn't cry. Mauricio, a friend of Marcos, who followed the trial along with the victim's brother, said that the sentence was very low for the crime she committed, even more so for leaving Marcos' 3-year-old daughter without her father. Mauricio also stated that there were no other women's panties in Marcos' room, and that Vanya only went there to kill him. Public defender Jorge Barreto Filho said he would appeal the sentence. After the end of the trial, Vanya was taken back to the women's prison in Vilhena, where she had been imprisoned since December 2015. On January 16, 2019, Vanya, then 21 years old, married Luis Fernando dos Santos, 31. Luis Fernando, like Vanya, was also a prisoner and was serving time for several crimes, including robbery. Their sentences together add up to 36 years and 4 months, and at the time he had already served 13 years and 10 months in prison under closed regime. They met at the women's prison where Vanya was imprisoned, where the electronic ankle bracelet is also installed. Luis Fernando went there to maintain these devices. At the time, he saw Vanya and became interested in her. After that, he sent a letter to an evangelical radio program and offered a song to the young woman. After a few days, she also sent a letter to the program and offered him a song. They continued sending letters to the radio, and after some time, they began to exchange correspondence directly, correspondence that was delivered by family and friends. The engagement took place at the end of 2018, when the couple was authorized by justice to meet in the women's prison and they spoke for the first time in person. The couple later received permission for the court to marry. At the ceremony, Vanya and Luis Fernando exchanged rings and kissed to seal the stable union. After the wedding, Vanya returned to the women's prison in Vilhena, and Luis Fernando to the fire brigade where he was serving the remainder of his sentence. As their marriage took place after both were already in prison, court authorization would be required for there to be visits between them. In this way, they had to continue relating through letters, since prisoners do not receive any benefit by virtue of marriage. A few months later, Luis Fernando gave an interview in which he was asked if he wasn't afraid of Vanya. The man said no, because he believed in God and in the transformation in Christ. He also said that he is super happy with Vanya and that she is a totally normal person. At the time of this interview, Luis Fernando had won the benefit of regime progression, better known as penalty progression, in which the prisoner leaves the closed regime and moves to the open or semi-open regime. In the case of Luis Fernando, I couldn't find information on whether he went to the open or semi-open regime, but according to him, as soon as he got the benefit, he would start visiting Vanya in prison with a court authorization. The man also opened his own business, a hair salon from which he makes his living. A few months later, more precisely in November 2019, the newlyweds separated. Luis Fernando didn't want to give details about the separation, but said that the decision came from Vanya. According to people close to the ex-couple, Vanya was probably jealous when she saw Luis Fernando on TV announcing the services of his salon that service men and women. With that, the young woman would have returned the ring to him during an intimate visit and said it was all over. In September 2021, Vanya received the benefit of the progression of regime and went from the closed regime to the semi-open one. She spent a total of just over 6 years in prison, and had several requests to progress to the semi-open denied. With this concession, Vanya, now 24 years old, starts using an electronic encode and will be under the guardianship of her mother. Because Vanya has already been diagnosed as a sociopath, the court determined that she maintains psychiatric and psychological medical treatment, as well as the regular use of specific medications. The young woman's mother will be responsible for monitoring and caring for her daughter. She must submit the monthly reports of follow-up and medical, psychiatric, and psychological treatment, and if she fails to comply with the requirements, her daughter may return to the closed regime. I didn't find information if Vanya is currently working or studying, or what she intends to do with her life now that she will be out of prison. And you, what do you think about this case? And the penalty Vanya took, was it fair? Do you believe she's a better person now, and that she can live in society? Leave your opinion here in the comments. Alright folks, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Best wishes, and I see you next time.